Alright, first off, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai, Bashem Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well. Shalom to the brothers and highways and byways pushing this word in all sincerity and truth. The sisters, the believers, the helps, the hopeful elect. Shalom. This is Brother Aaron from James Jamaica camp. Coming to another quick lesson. And this lesson is pretty much you know, an example or something to look forward to as it pertains to Esau, or even the unbelievers of our people that speak against the Most High, and speak against his prophets, those that speak against the temple. All right, now this is Second Maccabees 14. I'll start roughly about verse 11, and I'll jump around a lot. It says, this was no sooner spoken of him, but others of the king's friends, being malicious, set against Judas, did more incense Demetrius. So pretty much, they were propping up this Demetrius to come against Judas Maccabeus, right? It says, and forthwith calling Nicanor, who had been master of the elephants, and making him governor over Judea, he sent him forth, commanding him to slew Judas, and to scatter them that were with him, and to make Alcimus high priest of the great temple. So they wanted to get out Judas. They wanted to have their own puppet installed. All of this which would have been actually bad for the nation of Israel. Right? Now, I'll jump down to verse 15. It says, now when Jews heard of Nicanor's coming, and the heathen were up against them, they cast earth upon their heads, and made supplication to him that had established his people forever, and who always help his portion with manifestation of his presence. And that is the thing, we need to be confident that, once we sincerely pray to Yahweh Shem Yahushai, in any situation, especially when trouble is upon us, that, once we pray in faith, then it will be manifest. He will make his presence known. Right? Let me jump to verse 18. Pretty much it's saying that when they went 18 is pretty much saying that Nicanor realized that it was pretty much a bad idea to fight against Judas. And then I will get to the point. Verse 23 says, now Nicanor abode in Jerusalem and did no hurt, but sent away the people that came flocking unto him. So that's the thing, it was they were about to come against the people. The people prayed, and when Nicanor saw the strength of Judah, he decided that, look, it makes no sense that we fight, and he pretty much settled in Jerusalem for some time. As we read earlier, he was made the governor. Right? He says he would not willingly have Judas out of his sight, for he loved the man from his heart. So he pretty much, gained respect for him, and actually had love for him. Right? It says he prayed him also to take a wife and to get children. So he married, was quiet, and took part of this life. Now, pretty much afterwards, verse 27 says, then the king in a rage and provoked with the accusations of most wicked men, wrote to Nicanor, signifying that he was much displeased with the covenants, and commanded him that he should send Maccabeus prisoner in all haste unto Antioch. Because remember, the order was given to actually come against Judah. Right? It says, when this came to Nicanor's hearing, he was much confounded in himself, and took it grievously, that he should make void the articles which were agreed upon, the man being in no fault. Right? But because there was no dealing against the king, he watched his time to accomplish this thing by policy. So here's the thing, yes, he had respect and love for Judas, but he feared men rather than the Most High. All right, and that's what happened when men when you have people, Esau, or even two-thirds of our people, when they fear men more than how they fear the Most High, it caused them to do evil things, to even come up against innocent men, just to save their neck. But in the end, it's gonna be bitter for them, right? Verse 30 says, notwithstanding, when Maccabeus saw that Nicanor began to be churlish unto him, and that he entreated him more roughly than he was wont, perceiving that such sour behavior came not of good, he gathered together not a few of his men, and withdrew himself from Nicanor. All right. Now I'm gonna right. So I'm gonna continue. Right. It says, and when they swear. Right, but the other, knowing that he was notably prevented by Judah's policy, came into the great and holy temple and commanded the priests that were offering their usual sacrifices to deliver him the man. So he pretty much went and said, look, give me Judas. And when they swear that they could not tell where the man was whom he sought, he stretched out his hand and toward the temple and made an oath in this manner. If ye will not deliver me Judas as a prisoner, I will lay this temple of God even with the ground, and I will break down the altar and erect a notable temple unto Bacchus. And that's where he went wrong. He went ahead and speak even against the temple of the Most High. So those who actually speak against us are also speaking, against the temple of the Most High. And let's see what happens when people speak against the temple of the Most High. Right? It says, after these words he departed. Then the priests lifted up their hands toward heaven and besought him that was ever a defender of their nation, saying in this manner. Exactly. That is why when people speak against us and come up against us, another example right here, we should pray to Yahweh Shemel Shai. Right? It says, thou, O Lord of all things, who has need of nothing, was pleased that the temple of thine habitation should be among us. The Lord found it, a pleasurable thing to bless us with this truth, right? It says, therefore, O holy Lord of all holiness, keep this house ever undefiled, which lately was cleansed, and stop every unrighteous mouth. And that is the thing, we you can, in a sense, you can say we were lately cleansed. We were dead. We didn't have the understanding of these scriptures. All right, and pretty much, we of the household of faith, we're praying that Yahweh Shem Yahshai, keeps us, meaning, guards us, protect us, and guide us in the right path. Right. Now, something else happened within the story. Let me get down. Right. So the story continues in verse 15. And this is 15 on 1. It says, but Nicanor, hearing that Judas and his company were in the strong places about Samaria, resolved without any danger to set up them. And also, for the believers, Salakia, this is also a good thing for the believers as well, because he couldn't get his hand on Judas, he actually came against a man of noble birth, who actually was that gave a lot to the temple. They actually came against him, and in the end he ended up taking his own life, because he knew that they were gonna actually try to to abuse him and all of that, and he decided that, look, he wouldn't take it. Verse 42 says it. It says, choosing rather to die manfully than to come into the hands of the wicked to be abused otherwise than beseem it is noble birth. So he tried to jump off somewhere, it kind of missed, and then it goes and explains how it all turned out. So even that was on his hand as well. So it may not be the the teachers and the prophets, but you believers as well. The helps, and such other like of various offices. You too will be a target as well. But you need to know that Yahweh Hashem Yahshai will defend you, and he's avenger of blood. So if it's a case that your lot is to be a martyr, know that you would have died for Yahweh Shai's sake, you know. Therefore, your reward is sure, you know. All right. So Second Maccabees 15 verse 1, it says, but Nicanor, hearing that Judas and his company were in the strong places about Samaria, resolved without any danger to set them up on the Sabbath day. Nevertheless, the Jews that were compelled to go with him said, O destroy not so cruelly and barbarously. Give honor to that day which he that seeth all things hath honored with holiness above all other days. Then the most ungracious wretch demanded if there were a mighty one in heaven and if there were a mighty one in heaven that had commanded the Sabbath day to be kept. So, there again he goes again. Not only did he speak against the temple of the Most High, he spoke against the Most High himself. Primarily Esau, Edom does this. The heathen do this a lot. And as well as, the unbelievers of our people, some of them actually think and operate in this way as well. Right? It says, and when they said there is when they said there is in heaven a mighty a bit tongue-tied, right? It says, verse 4 says, and when they said there is in heaven a living Lord and mighty who commanded the seventh day to be kept, then said the other, and I also am mighty upon earth, and I command to take arms and to do the king's business, yet he obtained not to have his wicked will done. So pretty much, he said he's also mighty. Esau has that pride as well, and a lot of people also, think that they're mighty. So it says, so Nicanor in exceeding pride and haughtiness determined to set up a public monument of his victory over Judas and them that were with him. So, and that is the thing. So, his pride, the scripture says before haughtiness, before a fall, there's a haughty spirit, and this is also says before pride commit destruction. That's what about to happen to him. Right? Verse 7 says, but Maccabeus had ever sure confidence that the Lord would help him. So, Judas, had faith that Yahweh Shai would actually, defend him. Right? Wherefore he exhorted his people not to fear the coming of the heathen against them, but to remember the help which in former times they had received from heaven, and now to expect the victory and aid which should come unto them from the Almighty. And it's the same mindset that we're saying, to the hopeful elect, to the believers and the helps, that look, just as in time of old, we were defended and aided and got the victory. In the time of Jacob trouble, it's the same thing. It's the very same thing. Right, and it's the same thing that we're doing now when we give these epistles, these videos. It's reminding you of things of old. Right? Verse 9 says, and so comforting them out of the law and the prophets, and withal putting them in mind of the battles that they won afore, he made them more cheerful. And that's what we do. We exhort, each other with these scriptures. We exhort the household of faith with these scriptures. Right? Let me continue. It says, and when he had stirred up their minds, he gave them their charge, showing them therewithal the falsehood of the heathen and the breach of oaths. Thus he armed every one of them, not so much with defense of shields and spears, as with comfortable and good words, and besides that he told them a dream worthy to be believed, as if it had been so indeed, which not a little rejoiced them. And that's the thing. The weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but spiritual. mighty to pull down the strongholds, roughly paraphrasing. Right, that scripture in Corinthians. It's the same thing, even from back then, the victory was not gained, through carnal means, but always through the exhorting of spirit of the spirit, and the pretty much exhortation, giving the scriptures, reminding, bringing the whole nation in reminder of the scriptures, or in reminding them of the great works of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, pre that time, whenever they were in that those straits. Right, I'll read it again. It says, thus he armed every one of them, not so much with defense of shields and spears, as with comfortable and good words. And beside that, he told them a dream worthy to be believed, as if it had been so indeed, which did not a little rejoice them. Also this bringing into mind in the book of Corinthians, where it's talk where it says to take on the whole armor of the Most High. The helmet of salvation. The breastplate of righteousness. The girded with truth. The shield of faith. The sword of the spirit. The foot feet with girded with the gospel, walking in the gospel. It's all there, right? It says, and this was his vision, that Onias, which was actually a righteous high priest, before that time, who had been high priest, a virtuous and good man, reverent in conversation, gentle in condition, well spoken also, and exercised of from a child in all points of virtue, holding up his hand, prayed for the whole body of the Jews. This done in like manner, there appeared a man with grey hairs, and exceeding glorious, who was of a wonderful and excellent majesty. And I think I know who this is, right? It says, then Onias answered, saying, this is a lover of the brethren, who prayed much for the people and for the holy city, to wit Jeremiah, the prophet of God. And that's the thing, we know that we have one who pray for the hopeful elect in these days. We know that we have a advocate, and we have a mediator, which is Yahushai, will actually fight for us. Right? Verse 15 says, whereupon Jeremiah, holding forth his right hand, gave to Judas a sword of gold, and in giving it spake thus, take this holy sword, a gift from God, with the which thou shalt wound the adversaries. Thus being well comforted by the words of Judas, which were very good, and able to stir them up to valor, and to encourage the hearts of the young men, they determined not to pitch camp, but courageously to set upon them, and manfully to try the matter by conflict, because the city and the sanctuary and the temple were in danger. And that's the thing. This is why we do these lessons. This is why we go out on the highways and hedges. That is why we minister in this truth in any way that we can. Whether it's arms, whether it's praying for the body, throwing our tithes, teaching, preaching, showing brotherly love. Basically anything to the furtherance of the gospel, and the helping of the whole soul of faith. This is why we do it, because ultimately, the city, which are the people, and the temple, which is also us, are in danger, especially in these last times, when we're in such an evil world. It says that the righteous make it himself a prey, and that is it. We actually are making ourselves a prey, and once it's a case that we push through, and Lord willing, we obtain salvation, then the temple will not be in danger, then the city won't be in danger. New Jerusalem, right? It says, for the care that they took for their wives and their children, their brethren and folks, was in least account with them, but the greatest and principal fear was for the holy temple. And that is it. We love our families. In Yahushua I said that, if he that loveth mother and father and children and nuns, and wives, more than him, is not worthy to be his disciple. But what we care about is the truth. We care about the temple. We care about righteousness. We care about the will of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, and ultimately, once we defend, fight for the truth unto death. Defend this gospel, defend this truth. Then the Lord will make sure everything else is good and taken care of. So really, if we really, if what we care about is our our families and lands and gains, and having a good life, so to speak, then the way to do it is to actually care for the temple of Yahweh Shem Yahshai, care about the righteousness of Yahweh Shem Yahshai, care about the the truth. you know it says, but the greatest and principal fear was for the holy temple. Exactly. The primary concern should be for the truth, right? It says, also they that were in the city took not the least care, being troubled for the conflict abroad. It says, and now when as all looked what should be the trial, the enemies were already come near, and the army was set in array, and the beasts conveniently placed, and the horsemen set in wings. Maccabees, seeing the coming of the multitude and the diverse preparation of armor, and the fierceness of the beast, stretched out his hand toward heaven, and called it upon the Lord that worketh wonders, knowing that the victory cometh not by arms, but even as it seemeth good to him, he giveth it to such as are worthy. And this is also something that we should keep in mind. The brother Rakwaikwam, said that in a recent lesson, that we should, in face of all the hell that's about to come, there should be a certain level of calmness. Yeah, the flesh is going to tremble, but there should be a level of calmness where it comes from having faith that, look, the Lord is going to deliver us, whether it's the last millisecond, or however it may seem dire. It may seem like there's no way out, and we're going to be goners for sure. But just having faith, knowing that they don't know how or when he's going to do it, but we're going to be delivered, because he was saying that, look, the Lord don't fight fear. It doesn't care it doesn't matter what the enemy comes with. The Lord is able to just get rid of all of it, just like that. Right? Verse 22 says, therefore in his prayer he said after this manner, O Lord, thou didst send thine angel in the time of Ezekias, king of Judea, and did slay in the house of Sennacherib and 100 fourscore and 5,000. Now wherefore now also, O Lord of heaven, send a good angel before us, for a fear and a dread unto them, and through the might of thine arm let those be stricken with terror that come against the holy people to blaspheme. And he ended thus. And that's a good prayer. For the Lord to send it, his angels before us. Yahweh Shai, it will be coming back. Michael the archangel will also be coming back in these last days, to defend us, as it says in the prophecy, right? So we should have that that faith, and also in those times pray the Lord to bring to our remembrance these things, so that we can pray unto him in those times and have faith that he will deliver, right? It says, then Nicanor and they that were with him came forward with trumpets and songs, but Judas and his companies encountered the enemy with invocation and prayer. And that's the thing, calling upon the Lord, exhorting each other and praying. That's what it means to invocation, pretty much. As a matter of fact, let me get that real quickly. Invocation, it says, the act or practice of petitioning for help or support. Yeah, so pretty much prayer, right? So they actually was actually praying to Yahweh Shemeshai to actually strengthen them, right? So that fighting with their hands and praying unto God with their hearts, they slew no less than 30 and 5,000 men, for through the appearance of God they were greatly cheered. And that is the thing. The Lord actually strengthened them and gave them the victory. All right. It says, now when the battle was done, returning again with joy, they knew that Nicanor lay dead in his harness. Then they made a great shout and a noise, praising the Almighty in their own language. All right. And Judas, who was ever the chief defender of the citizens, both in body and mind, and who continued his love towards his countrymen all his life, commanded to strike off Nicanor's head and his hand with his shoulder and bring them to Jerusalem. And this shows that the Lord, you know, takes the crafty in their craftiness, and you're going to see why I say I say that in a bit. And speaking about the mindset, you know of Judas, it's the same thing for us. We should definitely be a defender for the truth, both in body and in mind, while continuing among our people, both the believers and the unbelievers, until it's time, when the full separation is made, and we go through. But ultimately, that's our mindset towards the truth. It should be, to be a defender of the gospel, both in body and mind, in both in word and deed. When we're preaching and doing these lessons, and when we're out and about, so to speak. Right? He says, so when he was there and called them of his nation together, and set the priests before the altar, he sent for them that were of the tower, and shewed them vile Nicanor's head and the hand of that blasphemer, with proud brags he had stretched out against the holy temple of the Almighty. And when he had cut out the tongue of that ungodly Nicanor, he commanded that that they should give it by pieces unto the fowls, and hung up the reward of his madness before the temple. So every man praised towards the heaven the glorious Yahweh, saying, Blessed be he that keepeth his own place undefiled. He hanged also Nicanor's head upon the tower, an evident and manifest sign unto all of the help of the Lord. That is the thing. And that is the thing. Because at the end of the day, he did, he did speak against the temple. He did speak against Yahweh Bashem Shai. And therefore, this is what he deserved. The Lord actually showed him in the end. At the time he was proud, he was prideful, but the Lord showed him different. Let me see if there's more here. Yeah, that is it. So just a tale, something to keep in mind, something to remember, especially in the days ahead, and even some of it applies to days now. So hope this was edifying. Want to give all praises and glory unto Yahweh Shem Shai Bashem Kodash, the bonus to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well. Shalom to the brothers in the highways and byways pushing this word in all sincerity and truth. The sisters, the believers, the helps, the hopeful elect. Shalom.